This is Axiom the Wyze. I'm getting ready to release an album called ETHOS on April 18th. And to help me promote the album, I invited a couple of friends along to talk about the album with me. Welcome to the Homie Sessions. First up, we got my man Chris Crawford here. I've known Chris for 15 plus years now.
It's been a long time.
He's a photographer. Go check out Dead Poet Photo on Instagram. Amazing dude. He's been a huge part of just my circle and my community forever.
Been known each other long enough for me to go all the way back to when we were spitting rhymes in closets together and shit. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what you got?
Yeah, man. So thanks for having me to chat with you about this. So I got the chance to listen to ETHOS a handful of times now, and for me, I think a couple of questions that just stood out right away to me, and I think we can just start at the beginning on this, is with your first song, which is Death to the Old Me. You begin the album with this song, and it's kind of about like giving permission to yourself and to those listening to shed their skin, their old selves, things that might be weighing them down, that kind of thing. And I'm interested, about how you might apply this to hip hop. Back in the 2000s, 2010s, we heard a lot about like hip hop is dead, even the 90s. And interested to hear your thoughts on like what this might mean to you and how that might apply to Death to the Old Me and to hip hop in general.
Yeah, that's a good question. That one was really giving myself permission to stay true to what I believe good hip hop is. And again, everyone's got a different brand of hip hop. I think with that song, it was more about staying true. Again, that's kind of a theme throughout a lot of the music is don't be afraid to burn bridges, I've been in this music thing for a long time now, and I've partnered with people. I've had people hop on the team, get off the team for various reasons, and really just making sure that whatever you're doing is your brand of hip hop and that you're not doing it for somebody else. And so we see a lot of people, especially with just all the hundreds of subgenres in hip hop that pop up nowadays, is people are trying to wear a mask of somebody else or trying to do what somebody else is doing to catch their views and things like that. So Death to the Old Me was really just me making sure that I'm sticking to my moral compass throughout the album.
That's I love that you mentioned that of like, making music and kind of wearing this mask. So much about hip hop is creating personas, alter egos. I mean, we've had plenty of times, I just thinking about back getting together at Leadville, we'd hang out, be having some drinks, hanging out with friends, and listening to Wu-Tang, and we'd be coming up with names for our own alter egos, for our own group, different things like that. So how important do you feel like an alter ego or a stage presence or a persona is for an MC? When you say about wearing a mask, that's definitely a big theme in hip hop. So how does that work for you, and what do you think about it as far as how it applies to your music and this new album?
I mean, rappers are superheroes, right? Like we grew up idolizing these rappers, especially like Wu-Tang and all these guys that we used to listen to. And they had that persona, right? They have these alter egos. They're names that they don, they put the cape on, and they save the world, right? They save the world through their music. And at the end of the day, when you take the mask off, is that your alter ego, right? The whole Superman thing, right? Where it's like actually Clark Kent's the alter ego. He was the superhuman the whole time. He actually has to disguise himself as a human. And I think there's that fine line with artistry where it's like, I feel like a lot of artists have that calling to be an artist inside of them, and they have to put on the mask of the 9-to-5 business person to get through life. But at the end of the day, they get to take that mask off and be the artist. That's how I feel about music, is I get to take that mask off and get on stage and be that person.
Love that. So having been a part of the hip hop community here in Boise, you've thrown your own shows, your own festivals, you've worked with local festivals, you've worked with, local radio programs, but you're also a husband, a father. KRS-One once said, "Don't you think it's time we thought about the future?" And so whether our children are going to be winners and losers, right? That kind of follow up that line. And what is merging the role of an artist, or of a hip hop artist, and your role as like a father, a community member? I know you take this kind of stuff really seriously. How does that apply to your own ethics and music making?
I think as artists, and I feel this more as the years go by, is that we have a responsibility to nurture the music community, the hip hop community, and just working with youth in general. We've taught at hip hop schools before. We've taught at just traditional schools teaching hip hop and things like that. And for us, it's sacred. It's a holy temple that we value, and we want to make sure that the music is encouraging, it's uplifting, it is inspiring. And so we want to make sure that that's what we're doing with our music, because like the people who inspired me, I want to make sure that I'm creating something that inspires the next generation. So it just really is this it's a lineage, because even the people who inspired me, they have the people who inspired them, and so on and so forth. And you just want to make sure that whatever we're doing is staying true to the core essence of hip hop and the culture, to acknowledge those who came before us and to create something beautiful ourselves, and then pass it on and inspire other generations to do the same, because it's not going to look the same in the future.
Yeah, I feel like that's a cool kind of combination between, your ETHOS album and the title of that, but then Stay True and the previous albums that you've had. It really taught, and there's a lot of your verses, or even, you have shout outs to old hip hop lines, but also some newer stuff too, right? You've got that line, "Fuck you, pay me." Like, it's, we're hearkening back to many different ages and many current stuff and older stuff. And it's always good to kind of celebrate the roots from where we pull our inspirations from.
Absolutely. And hip hop is a sample-based art, right? So you're constantly taking sounds from things that have already been done and making it into a new thing, right? So even just from the production side of it, you're not making anything new, you're remaking something beautiful.
So speaking of that, you have a lot of experience both as an MC, but now you're making your own beats. You've got a bit of time on the breaks, mixing, producing. When it comes to that, and like where you kind of start building your art, for a song these days, where does that really start for you? Does it start from a sample? Does it start from a sound that you hear? Or does it start with pen to paper?
That's a good question. It starts kind of all over the place, and that's not the best answer.
It just depends, yeah.
Yeah, like I have a notebook in my car that when I'm driving around and I get an idea, I'm gonna pull over and I'm gonna write that idea down. But I do dedicate time to make beats. And so when I'm sitting down, I'll sometimes start with the drums, sometimes I'll start with a sample. It really just kind of depends on what I'm getting into. And because I'm still really new to it, I haven't found a groove that works better than the other. Right now, I'm in this very exploratory phase of production where my music doesn't have a niche sound yet. Like you hear some producers, you hear an Evidence beat, you hear Apollo Brown, Ant from Atmosphere, you hear these sounds and you're like, oh, I probably know who that is. I'm still finding that. So right now I don't have any recipes or rhythms that I get into. It's really just sit out in the computer and see what happens.
Yeah, explore.
Yeah. So it's been samples, it's been pen, I'll write a hook and it have a melody in my head. And I'm like, okay, how can I make melody out of this? And then it goes from there.
Yeah, right on. So I've known you for a long time, and I've always known you as both a visual artist, a musician, spoken word. Over the years, you've created a lot of different varieties of art. You've created your own merch, the art for your merch, the art for your album covers. I've worked with you, collaborated with you on some of those even. When does the art sometimes spawn the idea for an album? Like ETHOS, for example, you've got some pretty striking like Greco imagery there. does the concept for an album often come from a piece of art that you've been working with outside of that, or do you find that you work the art into the album that you've been writing?
With this album, this is actually the first album that I've made that doesn't have a title track. And so I started making my own beats, and this whole project I produced myself. And so I made this collection of songs, not really knowing what I was going to do with it. But then after I narrowed it down to this is what's going to go on the album, I needed something to tie it all together. And a lot of the songs have some sort of lesson in it, whether the lesson was for me or I'm trying to explain a situation to somebody else. And hopefully by explaining my pitfalls, you can avoid those, do something different. And so I realized that this is just the essence of what I believe. This is who I am. This is me pursuing hip hop is my ethos. That is how I pursue life, is through hip hop. So
Awesome. Yeah.
to answer the question, it came in afterwards on this album.
Yeah. Let's see, how much, I have 2 questions more maybe? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's see, let's do, so having practiced martial arts as a form of exercise, competition, mind-body awareness, I'm interested how you might relate that to music and the way that you approach songwriting and musicianship, and kind of combine those two.
One of my favorite things about martial arts is you can't lie. When you're sparring with someone, you can't front, you can't fake it. Your cardio is what it is, your skills are what they are, and you have to test it and battle test those things. So you really get this, in martial arts, you get a super deep understanding of yourself and your own limitations.
There's an honesty, yeah.
Very honest. And you can't hide it. And to get better at those skill sets, you have to be honest with yourself at where you're at. And that has trickled into every other aspect of my life. With music, humbling myself to, again, I'm getting into production. That's a new thing for me. So I have to be very humble and say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'm trying to build a skill. So I go to the people who I admire their skill with that style that I'm going for. And I humble myself and say, hey, I might be this, rapper who's been in the scene for 10 years, but you've been doing this part of it way longer than I have. And humbling yourself to asking for feedback and learning all the tips and tricks. So yeah, I think that the lessons that you learn about yourself in martial arts transfers into art so easily, because you want to make sure that you're giving your output is the best that you can possibly put out. And it's
strong
not
foundations too, right? Those,
absolutely.
You got to build from a place of strength.
And Rick Rubin said in his book is, The Creative Act? It's not how much you can put on a song to make it sound good, it's how much you can take away without taking away from the essence of the song. So really, like you said, that foundation of the song and not sprinkling so much onto it to where it's like, oh yeah, I could add this fancy stuff here and there, but is that bass melody garbage?
Yeah.
So really being honest.
Are your lyrics honest? Are they like coming from a place of authenticity?
Absolutely. And so it's just being real with yourself and seeking feedback, and also accepting feedback from people you respect too is a huge part of that. But it also realigns your priorities and who you want to seek feedback from. Because there's some people that are just very glamorous and there's a lot of show to them, but there's not a lot of substance to it. And I want the substance.
Yeah. I think that feels, I think that's what connects people to real music and gives them that kind of like, I gotta get this album, I gotta buy this merch, I gotta support this artist, I want them to make more, gotta go to these shows. So.
Man, thank you, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
homie Mace. I've known Mace since junior high, high school era. And funny story, I love telling this story, is actually he was the first person to push me up on a microphone in front of people. We were at a snowboard premiere in Park City, Utah.
I still think about that all the time.
And it was Mark Frank Montoya on the tables. And they're like, yo, we're going to do a freestyle competition to win this snowboard. And I was like, oh, dude, that's crazy. And he's like, yo, you've been writing rhymes? Like, dude, get up on the mic, do something, dude. And I was like, nah, man, I can't freestyle.
I'm like,
and
make it
he
sound like a
literally,
freestyle, dude. And
he literally
just like,
pushed me up through the crowd and was like, this guy right here.
Make it sound like a freestyle, bro.
And I rapped, and the crowd went nuts. And
it was so sick.
And then they gave the mic back to the DJ, and he's all like, yo, that wasn't a freestyle, but
yo,
that was dope, but you disqualified.
Yeah, it was sick.
But ever since then, I loved the feeling of being on a mic. So that's all shout out to big homie Mace. What's up, dude?
What up?
How you doing?
Good, man. How you been?
Good.
Good. Love the new album.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very well put together. I like how it's changed. You know, I've been around since your first album, so I've got to see them like all kind of grow and change. And this one is like very, very well put together, and like the way the tracks flow together too. It doesn't like, you don't get stale, I guess would be the word. You know what I mean? It keeps you engaged the entire time, and I think that's what I like the most about it. Like, I'm trying to smash like on every one. I'm like, I can't like it. It's not official.
No, you got the files, dude. You don't even have the real thing yet. Yeah.
So, Trailhead, Andy's verse. I wrote on my notes, Andy's verse is Chef's Kiss. Like, that just like, that whole track hits home. I know it probably does for a lot of homies, but that was awesome. I really, really like that song.
What was funny is that song, there's a song by Dilated Peoples called The Platform, off their album, The Platform. And I was like trying to kind of like give it a Northwest spin, and it turned into The Trailhead. Because I was like, yo, that's what we do out here, right?
Yeah,
like we're up in the woods, we're like very outdoorsy, like that's what it is. And so like having that comparison of, you know, climbing through the music ranks, but also climbing a mountain and pushing yourself, right?
Yeah, and he talks about coming from the dirt.
Yeah.
And
he names like specific places too. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, farmer market and all that. Like,
the Mountain Trillium. Yeah.
So many good lines in that song. Your fourth track. My only question for that one is, who hurt you, bro?
What was the fourth track? Oh, it's Trust Issues, isn't it? Yeah, dude. No, that's about the.
We don't have to touch on that if you don't want to, but I'm like,
no, 100%. It's the music industry. That is rappers I've worked with, producers I've worked with, promoters I've worked with. Like, my wife tells me, you got trust issues, and I'm like, there's reasons why. Like,
yeah.
I've been burnt by so many people, and when you see people doing it for the wrong reasons, it just rubs you the wrong way. And
recognize real, right? You know,
I've been wanting to do this rap thing full time forever, right? And working with people that take advantage of you, that are just trying to use you as a stepping stone to get ahead. Like, I've become really good at spotting those people from far away and have distanced myself from ever wanting to work with that type of personality again. So yeah, that's what that song is. It's calling out all the shady promoters and all the shady rappers around here.
Sick. All right. Ride Around Town. I love that song. Great song.
Thank you.
Bounce. Everyone's heard that already, I think. Everyone that knows you. What did it feel like to wear a tuxedo and be soaking wet?
Yo, so we were actually behind the camera. We got John, and he was behind the camera for that shoot too. And I had my daughters spraying me with a hose to get that look and feel. And Ava kept just spraying it directly into my ear. So half the time I'm sitting there like, oh, yo, stop, like up. It was weird and kind of uncomfortable, honestly. But it got the look and feel that I wanted to for the song. So I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was sweet. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
I like the little picture in the background on Spotify too.
Oh yeah.
You all soaking wet.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Take Me Home. Dude, that's an instant classic as well. I do love that song.
That was fun. I heard in an industry panel that I was on years ago, I think it was for Tree Fort, someone's like, if you want to just make an instant classic, talk about going home. And I was like, yo, every time I leave home, whether it's tour, work, whatever it is, you're going from home, all you're doing is thinking about going home. And so I wrote it, I think I was in Washington when I wrote it. I know I wasn't home.
So you kind of wanted to go home a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to capture those vibes, you know, I wanted to be home. And the funny thing is it's always like, oh, well, we got to do this and then we'll get there. We got to do that. So it always feels further and further away.
Yeah.
But it's just like coming back across that, you know, that mountain home stretch from wherever you're going, you get back into your city and there's this feeling of like, oh, sick, I'm home.
I did that today.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
Let's see. Track number 10, dude. All I wrote was in my feels. Like I got like.
Which one was that?
The one about being a dad.
Oh, yeah. That's actually the first time that I talked about it on a song was actually the custody situation I went through with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it a long time ago. And I never wanted to put it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't think I need to. Maybe this one's just for me, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I showed a few people, and people who weren't parents were like, yo, I feel like I know what it's like to have that situation happen. And then showing it to people who have kids, they're like, yo, that's rough, you know?
Yeah,
so it's like, but then I showed it to my daughter and I was like, hey, I want to get your permission before I put it on the album. So she actually gave me her blessing to put it on there and talk about it, because it's personal, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely it just between being a dad and like you talk about your dad, we had a pretty similar upbringing when it comes to that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was like, man, I was like getting choked up. I'm like, I gotta skip.
I'll come back.
I'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Cherry, dude. That's probably my favorite track. Just because how upbeat and how like almost like not quite a party song, but like it gets you going.
It could be though.
It definitely could be.
Yeah. But it's funny that song took so many variations and versions, because I had written the whole thing and then I took out a verse and then I was like, maybe I should get somebody else on this. I sent it to like 4 different people and they're like, the tempo is weird. I don't know if I can, you know,
I love
it's this,
it.
that.
I love it.
Well, then I sent it to Zero and he's like, smashed it in like a day. And it was just like, yo, I got this. Mm-hmm. And then the hook, I wrote it, rewrote it a bunch of times. And I was like, yo, this doesn't need to be, there's no vocals on the hook. Like, we need to get rid of that whole thing. And I was like, Andy, what could you do to it? And so he scratched up a hook for me. And I was like, yep, that's it. So like, it took so many different variations where I thought it was done. And I almost didn't put it on the album until Andy finished it. He put that hook on there and I was like, yep, that's what it needed. Yeah, so I'm glad that one ended up on the album.
Yeah, I put that one was my favorite so far.
Sick.
Also, like Zero, dude, when he gets on a track that's like upbeat and hype, like he crushes it.
He goes.
Anytime he's featured on one of your tracks, it's like that. I love it. Then The Night, I think you released that one already too, right?
Yep.
A lot of people have probably heard that one as well.
Yeah, that one was dope. Defy, he's been a homie. So when I made that song, I was like, I need to get a heavy hitter on this one, and he knocked it out the park, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
just blew me away.
Yeah.
So shout out to Defy on that one.
The final song, The Craft.
The Craft, yeah, that one I went back and forth on what the last song was going to be, and it was supposed to be a different song that never ended up getting finished. So then I was going to use this other song, but the samples weren't cleared. So I couldn't get that song on there in time. And so I had 2 others that I was sitting going back and forth on, like how should the album end? And I was like, I don't know who I think it was Andy I showed the album to, and he's like, that's the ending of the album right there. He's like, that just smacks you in the face on the way out.
For sure, yeah. That's like the whole flow of the whole album is very, very good. Like that. So I've seen your sound kind of change and evolve, you know, the more you've matured. We've both become dads and stuff. You know,
yeah, we're making dad rap now, bro.
Dad rap. Yeah. So do you think that most of your like sound has evolved on this album because you produced a lot of the beats and did most of the production yourself, along with Andy and a few other people?
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest parts about this album is
The freedom.
everything.
To just do
Everything
whatever
was
you
me.
want.
So I produced everything, mixed everything, mastered everything. And that's the first time I've ever done this. So it might not be the best produced album, but I did it all. Andy definitely came in and helped with a lot of songs and helped tweak a lot of things and help make things better and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I had to humble myself and ask his opinion on a lot of things. And he's a very harsh critic, which I love about him. He'll tear things apart and just be like, no, it's whack. Like
He's not a yes man. He's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
I'll
not- and
tell
he's
you
not
what you-
afraid.
Yeah, I know. That you gotta have people around like that, otherwise your stuff won't.
Yeah, so this
it can get
album,
stale or whatever.
yeah, and I think that's what kept the album fresh too. Is I love a certain sound. I'm always trying to make music that I would listen to, and I know that my homies that support me, they have a certain style of music that they listen to, and so it's like, how can I make something that represents what I really like? That even there's certain songs that be like, oh, yo, Mace is gonna love this joint. Like I can't wait to put this one out because he'll just slap this one. Like that's gold. So there's some songs I make to inspire other people for specific reasons, but having full control over the whole sound at the end of the day was just a whole new experience, and it was a lot of fun.
You can definitely hear it in the album for sure. Your whole creative ability through the whole thing is great. I like what you did with it, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, dude.
Cheers.
Yeah. Big thank you to, what was it? Where are we? What do you call this place, Marcus?
The Alley Lounge.
Oh yeah, there's the sign on the wall. I know.